memories I have of experiencing OCD-like symptoms probably when I was 5. And it started really innocuously, like, are we going to run out of gas? Do we have enough cereal to get us through the week? Really benign things like that. When it really sort of, some accelerant was poured on the fire was probably when I was 10 or 11, around 4th grade. So I guess that I was probably a little bit younger than that. But my mom was pregnant with my baby sister. And so it was just a life change that was happening. But that's when it started getting really noticeable. And it wasn't just like, oh, she's worried about, don't worry about that. That's no big deal. This was the time where I felt like I would have thoughts and the lines between what I was thinking and what was actually happening were getting very blurry. And so to cope with that, I had to purge any of these thoughts that I was having. And since I wasn't going to go to confession every 5 or 10 minutes, I would just have to tell my mom every single bad thing that I thought. So was it clinically diagnosed? Yes. I did get a clinical diagnosis when I was about 10 or 11. And I didn't realize until I was an adult and on Twitter that there are other people whose OCD manifested this way, all in intrusive thoughts. So rather than the physical manifestations that we see in like What About Bob or Something's Gotta Give, it's all internal. And OCD presents that way for a lot of people, but we just hide it. We're really good at hiding it. And it's easier to hide because it's all inside. And so I was lucky to have a psychiatrist who recognized what it was and not just, poo-pooed it as, oh, she's just worrying. She's just a kid. She'll grow out of it. So at first, I think she was really jarred. And she would say, like, no, you didn't. What are you talking about? And I think it did scare her quite a bit at first. I think 2 things were at play. One of them was I was so embarrassed of what I was saying because I think deep down I knew none of it was true, that I would say it really, really fast and really quietly. So she couldn't really understand what I was saying, but I was getting it out. I was word vomiting it. Sometimes she would get annoyed because she eventually figured out none of this was going on. So sometimes, which I totally get, she would be like, that didn't happen. Stop. Which, who wouldn't get to that place? A lot of times, my mom is such an even keel person. I would be freaking out. I would be WebMDing every psychotic disorder I could think of. Knowing how I am, obviously that's what I would do. But she is so even keel. So perhaps now that I'm a mom myself, she was going in her room and crying. She was calling her friends. She was, who knows? Like, this is in the book, but it's before the internet. So she went to the medical library and checked out all these books to try and figure out what's happening. Took me to a psychiatrist. And so, I think she sought out advice from people. I think she talked to other parents or other, people in the community. I don't know. But she never freaked out in front of me, which I think would have just exacerbated everything and made me worry about myself, because during that time, I wasn't worried like I'm going crazy. I don't think I had the self-awareness enough to know that what I was doing was mentally unusual. I think I was just so focused on actually doing things that were wrong that hadn't even crossed my mind.